Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of Vampire the Masquerade Beyond Armageddon. Before we begin, I'd like to make a few announcements. First, please consider checking out the new upcoming V5 book, Sabbat the Schism. Not only does it delve into the history and lore of the sect, it opens up multiple role-playing options for fans of the game, including new playable clans, elder level powers, and much more. You can find a preview of Sabbat the Schism in the link below. Second, I'd like to thank RS Experiments, aka Mark, our local musical talent, for graciously providing the custom music you've been enjoying so far, including our awesome main theme song called Haven Dweller. If you enjoy any of the music used during the stream and you'd like to hear more, you can find a full library of Mark's work by clicking the link below to RS Experiments' SoundCloud page. Lastly, if you enjoy tonight's session and you'd like to see more, be sure to follow both our channels. You can catch us live most Sundays at 7 p.m. CET by tuning in to twitch.tv/RSA Games, or check out all our recorded sessions at RSA Games on YouTube. Links below. Remember to like, subscribe, and be sure to leave us feedback and suggestions in the comments below. We hope you enjoy the session, and without further ado, let us delve into the world of darkness in tonight's episode of Vampire the Masquerade Beyond Armageddon. You wake up back in LA with fresh memories of your time in Washington, eager to commence the training that Vicus promised you. As you consider what you were told, you check your phone to see that you have a new message from an unknown number. Flipping your phone open and reading through it, you see that the message is clearly from one of Vicus's servants, and it describes a man that you need, a man who you need to meet with. You remember Vicus telling you that you would be essentially fulfilling a task for them in exchange for tutelage. Though, given your age, you'd wager the tutelage would include the completion of these tasks to some extent. The message also contains an address and a time. And checking when that would be, you'd say you have about an hour to make it to the address.
Where is it? Like,
It is within
country-wise?
it is within East LA, so it's rather quick to get there.
Nothing to it but to do it, I guess.
In fact, if I do this, yeah.
Yeah, but really like over here.
Yeah, but you'd be able to make it. Let's just say that.
Hey.
So, do you go straight up or do any preparations?
I'll just leave and know that I'm off for the night.
Mm-hmm. You make sure that your pack knows that you'll be away, and as you walk out to your car, you get in the driver's seat and make your way out. As you drive through the streets of LA, thoughts of the potential effects that a path could have in your life, they sort of flood your head. And can you tell us a bit about how you expect the future to play out given your current knowledge?
Probably it would piss off my sire, my grandsire, but I have to make my own life.
Indeed you do.
I'm 70 for fuck's sake.
Indeed. And after a few minutes of driving, you reach the streets of East LA, and making sure that you weren't followed, you go to the address and park your car nearby. The address seems to be a bar, sort of a bar by night, sort of cafe-ish establishment by day. You'd call it like an American style pub at best.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to have a lot of people in there, but sitting on one of the tables outside, smoking a cigarette, is a man matching the description. He has curled blonde hair, sort of a wispy mustache that he seems to have sort of shaven into, basically two lines that overlap his lip. And his physique seems to be a bit on the taller but very, very thin side. Almost to the point where his clothes seem to be way baggier than they actually are. And he seems to smoke a cigarette and just sit back and watch the people inside the pub.
Did Priscus mention the name? Oh, right.
There was no name given, just a description.
I walk up to him. Do you have a fire? Pull out the cigarette.
Sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, I pull out the cigarette and ask him for fire.
Oh. The guy turns, looks at you, and says, "Man, I mean, I heard your description, but wasn't expecting you to have worse facial hair than I did." And he takes a lighter from his pocket and hands it to you.
I very carefully light my cigarette. Some of us don't get it. Some of us do.
Suppose so. Right, have a seat. I got the description of the job. We'll be working together for a while, so I suppose we should, to some extent, get to know each other. Yeah.
I guess.
As you take a seat and you stand across the table from this man, a few memories of your past sort of flood back. Memories from when you still had a heartbeat. You remember a friend who you trusted with your life. Both of you surviving in the trenches during the war. But you don't seem to have a lot of time to delve into the memory as the man in front of you begins to speak as he reaches for his phone and places it on the table, scrolling through. So, the boss wants us to take over this building here. And he flips the phone to show you. And you see the picture of what looks like a, essentially a large garage type of mechanic shop, with a bunch of bikes displayed around it, and a large number of people working on it. This photo is taken during the day, and the building itself seems to be quite big, almost like the mechanic shop is a part of the building, not the full thing. And the guy says, as far as I could manage, I did a bit of scouting, and the place seems to be home to some biker gang. They are not very friendly with outsiders, and well, nearly broke my nose when they found me. I'm just glad I can shoot a gun, or at least aim it convincingly.
Mortals?
From what I can tell, not as souped up as you lot.
Well, if it was during the day, it's either mortals or really thin blood.
Or something else. I mean, if you lot exist, what the fuck else shares the night with you, right?
You won't fucking believe it.
He seems to take a drag out of his cigarette, finishes it, and he looks around for an ashtray, notices that the table doesn't have one, and sort of shrugs and puts it out on the side of the table and leaves it there. So, boss said that I'm supposed to follow your lead on this. How do you want to approach this? And as he says this, he reaches into his pocket, takes out another cigarette, and begins reaching for a lighter in his pocket, which he doesn't find, and then sort of does this.
Yeah, I give him back his lighter.
Yep. He lights a cigarette and waits for your response.
I don't think that buying the building is a viable option.
No, definitely not. They're probably not going to sell it. At least not without making sure you're bankrupt and then are forced to, sell it back.
Well, I've got some tricks up my sleeve as well.
Yeah?
You wanna test me?
Well, I'd like to know at least what you got planned.
We can come in, guns fucking blazing, Or we can do less gun blazing, essentially.
Well, never been a huge fan of violence. But if you want to take it the violent way, I got your back.
I'll try to persuade them with my own little charms.
Cool. Shall I drive you there, or you got a ride?
I've got mine.
Cool. I'll sit in the passenger seat. And he seems to put his cigarette in his mouth, pulls himself up, and with sort of a somewhat carefree stroll, begins to walk uh, towards the nearest car, and then stops, kind of swings around, and says, "Where's your car again?"
That way.
Right. And he begins to walk on the exact opposite way in which he was originally walking towards your car.
I open the car.
Mm-hmm.
With me being the owner, the cigarette smell is the least fucking problematic thing that's happened to it.
Regardless, he seems to finish his cigarette before reaching the car, tosses it on the ground, crushes it with his shoe, and gets in the passenger seat. And as you get in the driver's seat next to him, he reaches into his pocket, takes out his cigarettes, kind of bumps it with the back of his hand, and offers you one. You shake your head?
Yeah.
Okay. He puts one in his mouth and says, "You mind if I..."
I just opened the passenger window.
Thanks. He
What
pockets...
was your name again?
Ah, Johnny. At least that's what people call me. We don't really deal in real names, you know. Way too dangerous in this line of work. That's what I've been told, anyway.
Sometimes it is. I start agent. Where to, actually? I don't remember the face of every building in the city.
Oh, just hand me your phone. I'll set it up on the GPS.
Yeah, I'll just gesture to infotainment system.
Yep. He sets it up and off you drive. And as you do, the guy sort of sits back on the chair, with his arm hanging out the window, and he begins talking. You know, before I met you lot, my life was not very eventful, but you guys sure do seem to make things fun, at least.
Some of us.
Oh, come on.
Some of us are just pissing in a fucking cup of tea.
Come on. Don't be that much of a downer. I mean, you got superpowers. You get to go around the night doing whatever the fuck you want. Break the rules here and there. I mean, sure, everything needs a bit of structure, but you guys seem to have that figured out.
I just point to the rearview mirror where he cannot see me.
He looks and then says, "Well, I mean, sure, you need a bit of help getting ready as soon as you wake up, but man, if that was the price I had to pay to get superpowers, I don't know, man. I've seen some of you get way worse deals." Hmm?
Oh yeah, some of us get it way worse.
I'd say so. So why the sour face all the time? I mean, I haven't seen you crack a smile since we met.
After 70 years, it gets a bit harder to fucking laugh.
Man, my grandpa would disagree with you.
Your grandpa could see his face for the last 70 years. He could at least joke about it.
I mean, maybe he has, but I think he'd rather not, you know?
Why?
Well, with my genetics, I'm sure you can guess. I mean, I've seen some of your the ugly ones of your kind.
Nosferatu.
Yeah, those guys. I've seen some of those, and if it was a beauty contest, my grandpa would still land last place.
That's fucking sad.
Oh yeah, funny though, sometimes. At least he's got a sense of humor. Still got laid, right? Wouldn't be here if he didn't.
I guess.
How about you? You got anyone other than this whole shit at night?
Hmm. Not since after the war.
The war. So you're 70. That would mean
I am
the big one?
older than that. No, it was the second one.
Hmm.
I just discount the years as mortal.
Well,
All of us do that.
sorry you went through that, mate.
It wasn't my kind of plan to do it.
He finishes a cigarette, and after, like, tapping the ashes out the window, he sort of flicks it out. And getting his next one, he sort of gives a frustrated sigh and sees that the cigarette carton is empty. He just pockets it and says, "Okay, maybe one of the bikers will lend me one."
I just fetched this disgusting pack of cigarettes.
Yeah.
I keep.
Well, the
This shit
guy.
gives you more than one cancer, but you do you, boo.
Mate, from what I've been told, you lot, your blood has such regenerative properties. Like, I don't really have to worry about cancer. Besides, with the type of shit I'm forced to do for you fucks, I'd rather die of cancer than whatever you got planned for me. And he takes one of the cigarettes, checks the brand, and says, "Man, you smoke this shit?
I
Sick.
used to.
It tastes
It
like
tastes
crap."
like ash. Everything fucking tastes like ash.
He
You die, you
lights
lose your taste.
he lights a cigarette, and as you say that, he says, "Man, there you go, bit of life in you, but it never prop up." And as he says this, you realize that you're closing in on the destination.
So many of them should be here around this time.
Nighttime, they seem to have a good chunk of them spending the night here, but not all of them. Depends if they had a bender planned for today or not. I'd say from the scouting I've done, they probably shouldn't. So people present should be mostly a skeleton crew standing in for guards. Of course, if the place is full of bikers, it might be a problem.
Yep.
So what's the plan, boss man?
Get in. Punch a couple faces. Make the boss appear. Make him give up on his investments.
You sure make friends easy, don't you? Alright. Let's go.
More often than you think.
He seems to reach into his very, very baggy clothes. And after fiddling around for a bit, he pulls out a Desert Eagle and checks if it's loaded. Shall we?
You're gonna fucking hunt for animals?
Well, you know, I have to shoot it less if it sends out a message.
7 shots. Make sure you don't miss any. I pull whatever the gun I yanked from one other job I had to do.
The big one, or
It was the gun. Was that no? I picked a pistol and a silencer. Silencer I didn't attach.
Yeah, you're taking out the special one, right? Though.
No, just a simple one.
Oh, just a simple one. Okay. Yep.
It was like 5-shot revolver or like
Yeah.
some cheap fucking gun.
Yeah. You take it out. I'm assuming you're not referencing the one you got from the job on the warehouse, right?
Yeah, I've got a normal pistol and a silencer from
Yeah.
Profiled.
Okay, cool.
So I just take the gun without silencer.
Yeah. You take the weapon, make sure it's loaded, and strap yourself. And he makes sure that the gun is at least within reach and exits the car. He takes a very long drag out of the cigarette, tosses it on the ground, crushes it, and then sort of like spits on the ground. Seriously, that brand tastes like shit. Let's go.
I walk towards let's call it chop shop for convenience.
So the chop shop has essentially two entrances. There's the one that's very clearly made for customers, where you have garages and then it sort of juts out like this. There's a door here made for customers. And then if you go that way, there is a door here that seems to lead more to, well, the rest of the building, whatever it may be.
Staff area.
Yeah. So which door are you heading towards?
I'll listen first. If there's a lot of sound.
Okay. Well, you listen in, and from what you can tell, the customer door seems mostly silent, but the other door, you can hear sort of heavy rock playing in a speaker. Not very loud, but loud enough that if you stand by the door, you can sort of hear very muffled sounds of guitar and bass.
Well then. Your opinion?
Well, if we're going in to break a few faces, I say we do it very quickly. If we're going in to just insinuate that we might break a few faces, then maybe stop by the bar, order a drink, or talk to someone there, and begin things from there. Either way, I'll let you take the lead, but whatever you choose, I got your back.
Yeah, I don't need to break faces to make them fucking shit themselves.
Bet you don't. Sight of that face would scare anyone, right?
If it was just my face.
And as you say this, and the guy sort of chuckles, you hear this presence whispering in your ear. Allying with another weak one, are we?
I I leave my little angel on read.
Mm-hmm. The presence does not seem to leave you as you proceed. Do you go inside? Knock? What do you do?
Yeah, I'll just go to the staff area
Mm-hmm.
and loud, really bang really loudly.
Mm-hmm. You beat the your fist on the door, and after a few moments, you hear some movement inside. Like you'd say at least three people seem to be doing something inside the building, and then footsteps approaching the door, and it opens, and you see this sort of tall, sort of mountainous dude with a very long beard, sunglasses perched on his head, and sort of a bandana under it, holding this really long hair behind him. And the guy just looks you up and down and says, "What do you want? We don't really serve outsiders.
I need to talk to the boss.
We're closed. Come back tomorrow."
I prefer to talk to the boss now, and I'm gonna mesmerize his shit.
Go on.
Manipulation, leadership, and it depends on his willpower.
Mm-hmm.
If persuasive applies, it's 7 dice, otherwise 6.
Persuasive does apply.
Oh no.
And this is based on his willpower, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Um, the man looks at you, frowning, and says, "I said we're closed. You deaf or something?" And as he says this, Johnny basically cuts in and says, "Look, mate, we literally just need to talk. Maybe it'll make us money, both of us, yeah? Could be useful, yeah?" And as he says this, the man looks at him with sort of a furrow in his brow and says, "All right, come on in." He opens the door and lets you both in. Do you step inside?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And as Johnny follows you, the man starts closing the door behind you and says, "You know, I did recognize you, little man. You were snooping on us the other day. I thought we taught you a lesson the first time." And Johnny's face kind of goes a bit pale, but he doesn't lose that sort of half smile he's got plastered on his face all the time. And then the man sort of points towards the table at the end. Basically, the room you enter is a very long bar with a number of tables on one wall and the bar on the other, and sort of a small corridor in between them. And at the end, you have one door that clearly leads to the mechanic shop, and one door to the back, which is it has a sign on it that says staff members only. And at the table at the end of the bar, you see this old guy covered in tattoos right up to his neck with some sort of climbing up his cheek. Just drinking from a short glass and a whiskey bottle that's half full next to him. And the in front of him, there's another man who sort of looks back to you and then stands up and goes sit at the bar. And the old man sort of sits back and gestures to the seat across him.
I while I walk, I I'm gonna learn a bit about him.
Okay. You may roll for it.
Mm-hmm. Careful applies.
I suppose so, yeah.
And again, it's self-control +4.
Okay. So,
Oh my
in
god.
his case... Yeah. So the voice in your mind says, "You really want to learn shit about this guy? I'm not really gonna help you unless we are both working towards the same goal. You know this, Jack. A host has to stay safe. But that doesn't mean I have to keep you happy." And the voice fades.
Anyway, I sit in front of the old man.
And Johnny takes a seat next to you. And as both of you sit, the tall gentleman that opened up the door for you sits next to the old man. And he reaches into his belt and places on the table a 44 revolver. And with his hand still on the revolver, he simply watches the conversation. The old man, still leaning back, takes a sip of his drink and waits for you to speak.
As you might probably heard, I'm interested in talking to you, and as you may probably heard, my friend, it can make us money. Language anyone talks.
Right.
So,
And how the fuck can you make me money?
well, I can bring you more clients and just bikers. Because believe me, fixing bikes and making them are two different stories.
How much are we talking about?
Can I come up with believable sum? Because he's not getting any.
Yeah, roll wits finance, and let's see if you can make a number that sounds believable and enticing at the same time.
Oh my fucking
What
god.
are your rolls today?
Shit.
So you say a number, and you definitely make it enticing. But as the number comes out of your mouth, you realize it's way too fucking high. Like it's unbelievable that you'd make this much money with anything, right? So as you say this number, Johnny sort of glances towards you, still with that same smile plastered on his face. His expression doesn't change, but his eyes sort of widen a little, like with a sort of oops look towards you. And the man looks to the brawny fella, and then the fella cocks the hammer of the revolver, and the old man says, "Let's try to be honest here. Your guests at our club here, so unless you want to get shot, disappear, etc., etc., you better start talking some sense."
Well, if you want some sense talking, I just venom myself.
Okay. You do need to roll for that, right?
No, I
No?
just spent 3 fucking blood points.
All right. So as you say this, you sort of feel this cold sensation creep up. Hmm?
Oh, wait, yeah, I roll manipulation courage,
Go on.
and I spend just 2 blood points. Manipulation. What's my courage? Technically, I can make it auto success because I have 8 dice.
Up to you.
It's difficulty 7. It doesn't give me anything more for more successes.
Sure.
If I can make it auto success, I don't trust my dice rolls tonight.
Okay, I'll allow it for now, just for story reasons. So you feel this cold sensation wrap around your feet, and the whisper in the back of your mind sort of growls a little as the shadows cover your entire being. And as you do this, the brawny guy just stands up, aiming his gun at you with his eyes widened. Though um the old guy, while he does tense up a little, doesn't seem to get up or really flee from you. Johnny, as soon as he starts seeing your shadows build up, instead of reacting violently, he simply scoots to the side to give you some space, and then takes his Desert Eagle and places it on the table.
No, we can talk. What do you want, old man?
Oh, for one, I do have some associates that would be interested in having your head. But as you're already in here, and we're not dead yet, I'm thinking you want something from us. I'd rather hear that than bullshitting. Or threats.
Yeah. I'd like me some new business.
And what kind of business is that?
Bike shop is a good start.
The bike shop.
Do you know how much money you can funnel?
So you don't want the money from the bike shop. You just want an association with us. Way to launder money.
Well, association is a strong word. More like I own the club, you run the business.
The man sort of, at that statement, gives you sort of a side eye and then looks to the bartender, who reaches under the bar and places 2 items on the uh, I'm missing the word. The table where you serve the drinks. He places a lever action shotgun. And then he places a single shell with an orange casing. And you may roll intent firearms to see if you know what this means. Difficulty is quite low.
I remember what it is.
Difficulty is very, very low. It's difficulty 3.
Yeah, it's one more because I didn't get to upgrade my firearms.
That's fine. Yeah, so you remember very clearly the sting of Dragon's Breath.
That explains a lot. So what's your prize then?
Well, doing business with you would mean that I'd probably lose a lot more of my people than I'd like to. And given that a few months back we've already lost so many because we decided to ally with some bitch that really wanted the heads of some of your kind. And then she went missing, taking a few of my men with her. I'd say, how about we reach a mutually beneficial cost here? You won't own the bar or the mechanic shop, but you can do whatever business you want here. In exchange, I'll need you to off the people who are pressing us.
Who are they?
As far as I know, creepy fuckers with powers like yours. Only we do business in.
Have to elaborate. We
We
come in many different sorts of shit.
we do business under sunlight, so I'd wager they're not whatever the fuck you are.
Does it feel like they can sense your bullshit from a mile away when you talk with them?
Feels like doing business with you.
And what do they press you for?
He sort of glances at Johnny, who simply gives him a bit of a big smile and then turns his attention to the big fellow, who is still with a gun pointed at your head. Then the old man turns to you once more and says, they use our weapons smuggling operation.
Really custom weapons? Nothing like that before.
Parts. Along with our usual merchandise, they want us to ship parts.
Let me guess. Crowfield Arms.
No. Some shady fuckers. If you agree, I'll tell you where they are, and you can then dispose of them. And when you dispose of them, then we can talk business.
I turn what essentially is formless mask of
Mhm.
darkness to Johnny, like, good enough.
Johnny sort of taps his Desert Eagle on the table a couple of times and says, well, I'd much prefer to agree to this when you don't have a 44 pointed at your skull.
I can survive 44, but that's beside the point.
Johnny sort of stands up. He leaves his gun on the table, sort of slides it closer to you, and stands up, and stands in front of the 44, blocking the guy's view from you. He takes a few steps back and sort of looks at Johnny with a confused look. The old man looks at Johnny, then looks at you, and then just says, guns down. And the big fella, still with sort of a shaky hand aiming his gun, um, slowly lowers his weapon. However, he doesn't holster it or disengage the hammer. And Johnny says, "That's better. See, we can all be friends here. You don't have to offend my business partner over here, yeah? Cool. Now, sir, is this an appealing conclusion of our business here for you?" He says this looking to you.
Yes.
Good. Then I think it's a good idea for us to head out. And as Johnny says this, the man, the old guy, just his eyes dart between you and Johnny, and then he says, "Yeah, maybe you should head out. Only I'll need to ask you to take the door that leads to the garage and then take the garage door out. We'll need to manipulate some footage to make sure that y'all are not seen coming in or out."
Sure.
Yep. Do you stand up?
Yep.
Yep. And as you do, and you start heading out, you sort of feel this inner urge to just rip these fuckers apart. And while you don't engage in it, two of your tentacles sort of stiffen up and they get these weird joints that you're familiar with. And while they don't attack anyone, they essentially start dragging themselves on the ground, making two large scratches following wherever you go.
Someone misbehaving.
And as you go through the door and Johnny follows you, you both exit through the garage door that is opened by the tall gentleman who, again, does not holster his pistol and is very pointedly watching you. And as you exit, he closes the garage door behind you. And Johnny begins heading towards your car and saying, "Well, that went well. We didn't really need to break any faces, right?"
Sorta.
Huh? I mean, by your description, I thought you were going to be one of those violent motherfuckers of your kind, but hey, you got a pretty cool head on you.
I can be violent.
Ah, we all can.
Still.
But isn't the true measure of an actual man to be capable of violence and then choosing not to engage in it?
I suppose. Before we leave through garage door, I just remove shadow.
Yeah, of course, of course. I'm assuming you do.
Yeah.
Johnny seems to reach into his pocket and takes a pack of cigarettes that you didn't really see him having this before. He taps it twice and says, "They only left me 3." He then pockets it, taking one of the cigarettes out, and lights it.
Could have been 0. Could have been close right-handed.
Yeah.
You win some, you lose some.
Well, important thing is we left a message. And you handled yourself pretty well. I'm sure the boss will be happy.
Self-control is something you have to learn.
I'm sure. Well, regardless. Shall we head out?
Yep.
Cool. And before you drop me off, just know that if you need anything handled, I'm sure you have servants of your own, but if you need something that's not tied to you, boss has allowed me to do no, provide some extra services free of charge.
That's very kind of them.
Mm-hmm. I was also informed that you enjoy, let's say, books.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll be sending a package to, well, not your haven, but a drop point where you can pick them up. I got a few volumes that the boss wanted you to have, and I personally insisted that we gift them before proceeding to big business. You know, we're gonna be working a lot together. Might as well have a good rapport, right? Don't want you ripping my head off just because you don't like me.
Quite the contrary. Yes, you look like a friend I had.
Fuck you mean? And he takes a drag of the cigarette as he approaches
Just
the
because
passenger door.
just because I am the way I am doesn't mean I can't have friends. Okay.
I'm sure we'll discuss that in detail at some point. But for now, as it stands, I suppose all we can do is drive back to that pub, and you can drop me off next to my bike. I'm sure we'll be in touch.
You wanted me to fucking ride in your bike?
What? You don't like snuggling up to me? And he takes a drag of the cigarette and sort of flicks some of the ashes your way. I'm insulted.
If I wanted the fucking rush of the wind in my hair, I'd buy the fucking convertible.
And with a chuckle, you both drive off towards the pub. And that is where we will leave Jack's story for now. We'll take a quick break and be back very, very soon. See you soon.
See you around.
Welcome back. We join Serena as she makes her way back to the Haven after handling some business away. And as she enters, sort of cleaning up her hands, she begins heading towards the basement in hopes of gaining some assistance from the Pax Ductus. And Serena,
And also
given
probably because that's where I stay.
mhm, uh, given recent events, what goes through your mind for most of the time?
Well, Serena is absolutely shutting her, just like she put the memory of Ficus puppeting her and Cecil around, including trolling them both as they fell asleep. Um, she has compartmentalized that, but because she has compartmentalized that, the thought always like wants to get out. And given her sassy attitude and her inability to know, can Vicus read my mind from a distance? Because I can be sassy even mentally, and then what's gonna happen? So in her mind, she's constantly like either studying something, like the thaumaturgy book she has, or something else, or just consistently singing some catchy song
Mm-hmm.
so that she doesn't start sassing Vicus mentally.
Okay. And as you descend into the basement, having this, playful back and forth between paranoia and some song that you've chosen to keep your mind busy. A smell immediately hits you, almost as if all of your thoughts go into the background, and this is the only thing that preoccupies you now. A smell that resembles blood, but is at the same time so much more enticing.
She straight up smacks her nostrils.
Yeah. You immediately try to close up your nostrils using the modified um, sort of uh, valves that you've placed in. And it takes a degree of willpower just to ignore the urge to keep on smelling because it's the only thing you can think about. And you eventually manage to close them. And almost instinctively, you take a few breaths just to calm yourself down. But even though the smell is mostly gone, you can still. You still can't really think about anything else, really. It's just this thing that plagues your mind.
Mm, Nina's going to like um, reach into her coat um, and pull out the non-Voldery bone dagger,
Mm-hmm.
which she just sort of like carries around like a fake bone dagger, which should look more like a prop. But it should be sharp enough for her to just like jab the middle of her hand
Mm-hmm.
to basically have the pain overcome the urge.
Mm-hmm. And you actively have to sort of force the dagger into your skin.
Yes, it's not actually forcing, it's actual stabbing motion.
Okay. So yeah, you just push the dagger through your hand, and the pain jolts through your body. Um, and it sort of pulls the thought away for a moment.
She's going to go up for a second
Mm-hmm.
and pull out a cigarette.
Okay. Do you pull out the dagger out of your hand first?
First she lights a cigarette, and then as she, like holds a cigarette in her mouth, half inhaling it because it's going to have this um, nicotine plus burning plus some chemicals of the cigarettes. Like it's gonna have like a mix of those, and
Mm-hmm.
that would basically, so say,
Well, those effects
uh,
don't really. The chemicals don't really have an effect on you, but maybe
no,
the
but
inhaling of the smoke keeps
no,
your.
it's the inhaling and the smell itself
Mm-hmm.
because it's a quite strong smell, and as a vampire, she has quite good um, senses.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, and given that she hasn't really been using her cigarettes so much anymore, even though she has some, um, it should be, something that her nose and mouth is not used to. So it should be overwhelming. And only as she's holding it, like breathing, like the cigarette between her teeth, breathing in, uh, knowing that she's not really going to cough out her lungs, even if she inhales a lot, and then breathes out through her nose. Only then she takes out the dagger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you sort of focus on the smell as much as possible. I'd like you to roll me wits and let's say for this type of sort of internalized mental process, I'd say wits and
Intelligence.
actually, let's make that conscience roll. It won't affect your path rating. It's just essentially seeing how well you can take to the constant effort to disciplining yourself versus the
Got a success.
yeah, you it takes you a bit to sort of arrange your mind in that sense, but eventually you do sort of calm yourself enough. And as you pull the dagger out, you sort of see the inside of your hand slightly moistened by vitae, and you just ignore it as much as possible and close up the wound.
No reaction to my own vitae.
Oh, definitely a reaction to your own vitae, but because you spend so much time sort of pulling yourself out of this, you just ignore it for now.
See, so even my own vitae effects?
Mm-hmm.
That's strange.
Addictions. Doesn't matter where
Still,
it comes from. It's the indulgence that you want.
After, you know, smoking that cigarette, very inhumane like inhalations, just to as she returns downstairs, so that basically the remnants of the smoke are still overwhelming. Only after that after she finishes it, basically she smokes it in a way that any human, even like very adamant smoker, would either start feeling bad or have a very bad cough after it.
Mm-hmm.
So only after that she goes downstairs.
Yep. You focus on calming down this need, and as you begin heading downstairs, feeling ready to hold yourself together despite the enticement, you realize just looking at your phone that you spent about a full hour just calming yourself from this. And entering the lab slash bedroom, you see Cecil working on what seems to be a completely new Schlachter.
Serena looks at the Schlachter, looks at Cecil, says hi, then sits down on the bed, and just closes her eyes for a second because she realizes that's probably just Cecil giving some blood to the Schlachter. And it took an hour to calm down.
Come down. From what? And as he
I
says
said out
this, you see him sort of jolt his elbow as he seems to be pulling something out.
Serena looks very startled for a moment because she thought she said it she thought she thought it, not
Mm-hmm.
said it. At least that was the player's intention. But she's not sure whether she thought it or said it, or whether Cecil just went into her mind and looked. Mm. Were you Are you giving your blood to the Schlachter?
Cecil seems to place something on the side of the table. Seems like a bit of flesh that he ripped from the body. And he puts his hands back to work and says, "Oh, it's part of the usual process. Can't let it die before it can serve its purpose."
I know, but that means we have a problem. Well, I have a problem. Well, potentially we have a problem considering I sleep in the same bed as you.
What problem would that be?
The problem I acquired when I ate that unlucky hound.
As you say that, Cecil stops and sort of straightens his back and says, "The addiction."
I mean, generally, I can actually control myself more or less okay. Even have things in my nostrils so that I can stop my breathing senses on emergency. And basically, Serena gets up and starts pacing back and forth, playing with her fingers, which makes me really, really annoyed and also terrified that you smelled really, really delicious and overwhelming. I spent an hour upstairs inhaling cigarette after cigarette to get that out of my nose. That is dangerous.
To say the least. It hasn't gotten any better.
Before I had, here and there, somebody would be dying anyway, and I'd requisite their blood. So I guess it kept it under, under the wraps. Or maybe it's getting worse. Or maybe it's, you smell more delicious because you are more, important to me than other vampires. Well, you are actually important. So, you're basically my relationships makes the smell more enticing. It could be some vampire mechanics or something. But that makes it very bad. That makes it very bad.
You've tried to state it, stave off the sensation.
Well, no, I didn't since the last one. I mean, normally, unless I don't know, there's like something from the blood that's interesting for me to learn as a discipline. That's when, it's okay, or if it's like blood brigade. Since, you can't really concentrate on draining someone in a battle. It's dangerous. But it could happen also, if it's actually getting worse.
The problem is more relating to the path. I've been trying to find ways to develop the path further, allowing you to reach new heights, understand what this mentality is about better and better. And this will be a significant obstacle. Indulgence of...
Stabbed and went upstairs and inhaled like 3 cigarettes of very toxic and horrible smelling fumes, okay?
I understand, but the fact that you want to indulge constantly, it will sooner or later be too much for you to stop it. This will stifle your path.
This is a danger to you, okay? That's first.
That
It's a
part
danger
is
in a battle.
pointless. That part is pointless. If I die, at least my blood will go to good use. You wouldn't waste it.
Shut up.
But if you don't progress on the path, you are stifled. You are static. You know very, very well the repercussions of failing to move on, of failing to change and overcome.
So, actually, just to note, for Serena, it's more about like disappointing Cecil.
I'm sure.
Not whatever he means. Not whatever he means.
I'm sure.
Which I assume is Vicus or something. So yeah,
After
so
after a few moments,
other rituals, other other ways. Um, can you? Could you like technically addictions? Oh, yeah, but this is supernatural, isn't it? Um,
from what I've managed to dig up, addictions of this nature are more tied to our instinct than anything else. Mastering our instinct only can get us so far. The addiction surpasses it a lot of the time. I've never experienced the addiction, but my test subjects that had it, I've never had one successfully overcome it.
I mean, it's supernatural, right? It's supernatural. It's not something that was in. So couldn't it be like extracted?
I don't think it can, and I don't think there is a solution. But after a few moments of sort of processing things, Cecil just takes a step towards you and he places one hand on essentially supporting your cheek without really making eye contact. He sort of keeps himself turned to the side, just allowing this one touch to send the message. And he basically says,
Serena leans
I'm.
into the head
Yeah, he
and
basically
closes her
says,
eyes.
he basically says, I'm gonna find a solution to this. Whatever it takes. I'm not letting this one obstacle be the cause of your death. Not this time. And at that, after a few moments, he just pulls his hand away slowly.
Serena is a bit disappointed, but she still looks content. Then she sits down on the bed, on the fairy bed, her bed.
Mm-hmm.
Is it even safe for me to sleep with my bank so close to you?
I'd rather not have you suffering other vulnerabilities just because of an addiction. And I trust you enough to control yourself, even if it does get worse. I'll take.
Could make a muzzle. Iris jest.
I'll take the necessary
Was it?
precautions. What about. What about your research in that into that book I've given you?
Oh yeah. So, by the way, how's it going? Because I've been reading it on the plane
So
there and back, making notes and everything.
you understand a bit of the philosophy behind the path. That said, you've yet to successfully apply it. So you understand, like, the out of character, you understand the philosophy of the people who started developing this. So you can implement some of your own out of character knowledge into this, but the details are very foggy to you. You don't even know the original clan that came up with this.
Just a second then.
Hmm.
Well, understand the philosophy behind it, and you know, um, general idea. Um, Quite interesting since I can mold the flesh, but plant life is sort of like different. So having plant life, which is another type of flesh, just plant flesh, is quite interesting, especially the fact that the hippies were right. Plants do indeed have spirits. Oh
Anything
my
that
god.
might help you with the addiction.
Well, maybe. Well, it says that it is possible to commune with the plant spirits, and some of them are more, um, so basically small ones like crabgrass, right? Rarely have much insight or wisdom, but large ancient trees in an ancient untouched forest or a conservatory, they have their spirits have very like wisdom that is not of our kind or the mortal
No,
kind.
no, 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 no. We're not going this route.
Well,
There's only one
no,
place
I
where you'd
meant
find actual knowledge that way, and you're not going there.
I did not understand what you meant. What I meant is that the book
Ancient,
says basically.
ancient spirits tied to trees. There's only one place in LA that has them.
Oh, you mean no? But look, trees. It doesn't. I don't need to go to the werewolf park for that. Okay, I'm pretty sure there's other places with like some like trees valued as how to say nature wonders. Uh, Mortals like to put them, like put a sign that this tree is like 800 years old or something like that within the city limits. Okay, it's more about the fact that um, you know basically crabgrass doesn't live long, so it has little insight. It can be used for like spying and maybe relaying simple facts. But something like a tree, or perhaps a tree that is part of, like at the edge of a park or a forest that is part of a bigger mycelium. Oh, probably the mushrooms could be pretty big too. But yeah, basically, the older the plant or the more complex it is, like the mushrooms with their mycellular networks, the more complex the spirit is, and they have some wisdom. So maybe, maybe the tree spirits will know something about that. But
Then
I,
continue your research. Learn what you can.
but I have questions.
The point being, once you do learn your research, once you do achieve a way to obtain this knowledge, whatever happens, do not set foot in Griffith Park. Even if you are aware that the secrets you want are there, you don't set foot in that park.
I mean, honestly, last I heard there were werewolves there, so no.
If only it was just the werewolves.
What else?
Just know you're not to set foot there.
I won't, but can you tell me what else is there?
There's an ancient of our
An
kind.
ancient Ooh. With the werewolves?
The werewolves avoid her.
She's awake?
Yeah. Though she's
See.
not one of our enemies, not an ally either. She's someone who should be avoided.
Look, if I want to go chat with some ancient tree, I'll pick another spot and I'll consult you and,
Promise me.
yes, I promise.
After a few moments of Cecil making direct eye contact with you, he seems to sort of relax a little and say, all right.
The fact that even the tree spirits would know something about kindred specific, uh, like curse specific addictions is, especially in the America, very far from the birthplace of the vampires, is still quite unlikely.
There's a
Truth is, some
reason.
reason.
There's a reason why there are so many of us here, despite this being considered the new world. Okay?
Okay.
Just
Then Serena pauses for a second, is in thought, and then looks at him. Are there any beasts in the Appalachian Mountains?
as far as I know, anything could be hiding there. The point being, there are plenty of reasons one of us might come here. For one, I came here because there was a lot of territory to take, and at the time I needed territory and influence. When I took it, I didn't imagine I'd find some of the things I found here, and when I did, it became very, very clear why I shouldn't overstep my bounds. I don't want you to learn that lesson the hard way.
Did that happen to you?
Yeah.
What happened?
Cecil turns his head for a moment, and after pondering, he then goes to the bed, sits down, and he sort of rubs the bridge of his nose and then says, when I first started looking for territory, spots to call my home, I took the usual influences my clan is famous for. I tried to establish a territory near the woods. This ancient had already laid claim to it. I thought I had to ward off werewolves, so I prepared for it. Instead, I woke up with only my head coming out of a tree. My limbs were then pulled out one by one, and I was made very aware that I shouldn't overstep my bounds. I was then left in the woods, and it's only by sheer luck that I managed to feed, heal, and make it back.
So she also knows the Great Path or something like that?
Worse.
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 What's worse?
I've only researched it lightly, but to us, diablerie might be an addiction, an indulgence, or just a way to grab power. To some of us, it's borderline necessary. I was lucky that my blood wasn't consumed that night.
Um. Okay, so she needs to consume vampire blood. Good, like good to know. But I thought you meant that she had some other magical past that was worse than Green Path.
Oh, she does. Potentially, she knows how to manipulate plants, but, well,
Well, because in the book I saw that there's like something similar to what you described, like a theory behind it.
yeah, perhaps. I'm not familiar with that path of thaumaturgy. Not intimately, anyway.
I mean, it's quite useful from what I see.
Then you should
I only,
definitely learn it and help the Sabbat with it.
yes, I mean, being able to ask plants if somebody passed or who was talking somewhere is actually useful. You can always find a cactus somewhere.
Returning to the original topic, I'll do my best to find some way to circumvent the effects of the addiction, but a cure is not within my reach. Not with my current pool of knowledge. I wouldn't be able to devise one, I don't think.
Well, I do think that if there is one, it would be more magical in its essence.
Yeah.
Mm.
I might be able to treat your symptoms, though. Temporarily,
Well,
at least.
I mean, that would be good because of, like I said, um, could become quite a problem in combat when somebody is hurt, and I can hurt quite well. So, yeah, mm, that's probably like the worst um, side effects that could happen. Mm, I don't know if before it was because I had a snack once every few times, like once every few months, mm, or it's actually getting worse. But
Well,
if somebody were to find out, having just a snack to just like maintain it for the rest of like time and be safe and be able to continue to learn could still be easily exploited if one were to find out about this problem I have.
well, in the lab you usually do your experiments in, I have a package there waiting to be worked on. You can sate this urge temporarily
Fine.
if it is
I'm fine.
needed.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine for now. I aired my nostrils. Mm, and, you know, uh, plus, I really have no way to safely test whether um, stating it for safety actually makes it better in the short term, but makes it worse in the long term. Because if it's, like, if it's only the symptoms that will be able to be treated and so on, uh,
Then
given the
maybe,
fact that our enemies and dangers we face do require me to, eventually grow closer to Cain to be able to resist them more, I think it's best maybe saved for, for opportunities when it actually aids in gaining power so that I may live another day to experiment and, you know, withstand our enemies. especially if there is a chance that indulging it makes it worse in the long term. I mean, the only other opportunity is actually to make a vampire and feed them some shovel heads until they get the addiction, and then see whether.
That won't give us much more information than simply watching you. We can't get in their head.
Well,
Not that way.
can.
Not that
Okay.
way.
Mm,
Addiction makes it foggy.
mm.
I don't know what you're going through, for example. I tried to figure out. And maybe there is a way I can learn. Cecil stands up and begins walking to the lab.
Mhm.
And he enters. There is an unconscious woman on the ground.
Mhm.
And if you follow,
Yeah, I follow.
yeah, you basically see him crouch down and he begins draining her.
Wait, I. What good would it be if? Are you trying to also get it?
Um, Cecil pulls his mouth away from the dry artery and simply says, "There's only one way that I'll be able to understand the mindset and come up with a cure." And he slices his wrist open.
He slices his wrist open and does what?
Well, he feeds the blood to the woman.
Hmm. But look, but but then it's two people with potential liability.
Maybe so, but that means two people who will know what it takes to resist it and who'll be able to come up with a cure. Do you have other suggestions? Because I don't see any way of moving forward for now. And I'm not gonna have you struggle with this by yourself. You're muted.
Oh, just a second.
Mm-hmm.
Test.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Look, I already have. First of all, you're not gonna get my ADHD, which definitely also makes the situation worse. The thing I have inherited as my curse from my mortal days, okay? You're not gonna get it. And people with this disorder have more addictive personalities.
Serena, I will not
It's
let you suffer through this alone. Ever.
Serena. Serena just like gives up. Like she's still pretty unhappy about it, and she uh, kneels down next to him and the woman. Are you sure? Like, look, you're already here for me and helping me and wanting to find something for it. I really don't need you to also get it.
Cecil looks to the woman, still unconscious, and he looks to his open
I
wrist.
really, I really appreciate it. I appreciate that you want to share my burden. But what if we're like, at least if it's just only me, then, like, you have your wits about if something goes bad for me. What if we both lose control at a certain point? Like, think about the pack. None of them would be able to stop us. Like, it's a really grand gesture, but I know that if, for example, we both lost control and none of them are going to be able to do anything about it if we're going really for it. And it's going to be horrible.
Situation's already horrible. You don't know what it's like just having to stop you. Just watching you drain victim after victim.
Okay. First of all, some of those were planned. I needed fortitude.
Maybe so. But I would never know if it was indulgence or not. I never actually figured out which ones were indulgence or not. You don't know the struggle that is looking at you, and having to decipher which times you're advancing in your path and doing everything for knowledge, and which times you are falling behind and indulging. And I will never know, because despite how much I trust you, I don't know how much the addiction will force you to do things you don't want to do. This will at least assure me of the effects it might have on you.
I still think it's a bad idea.
So do I, but I don't see a choice. Cecil seems to nervously hold the open wound close to the woman, but doesn't push his wrist into the woman's mouth. He seems to be pondering the decision and, like, mentally struggling with it.
Look, how about, like, this is a very, like, I know this is your first instinct to do this, but maybe it's good to think about other options first, because you can always turn somebody and drain them to get it, right? Because it was a rather on-the-go decision. And
Cecil
brilliant
still
ideas
seems to
have-
ponder. Cecil still seems to ponder as he holds his wrist
What
there.
is that blood doing? What is that blood doing, by the way?
He simply has his wrist open. No blood has come out yet.
Okay, so I could basically ignore it for now.
Yeah, especially since you're keeping your nostrils shut and you've essentially mentally prepared yourself for a situation where you'd smell this.
Yeah. Look, you could always turn another test subject. If you really will be in a day or two that there is no other solution. It is your choice, so, if you choose to do it today, okay. Maybe you think faster than I am, but, sometimes ideas and brilliant inspirations come when you're doing something else entirely. We're talking about completely different thing with somebody else. So if you really thought it through and, you're certain this is the only way, okay, I trust your expertise. But if it was a rather, on the moment, impulsive like decision where you want to learn about this condition and also help me, and shit, if you've actually managed to fix it, imagine you'd be the first person to manage to overcome this. That would be like a vampire Nobel Prize or something. But I digress. Point is, if you're certain, all right, and I will also help you with, the ways I've managed this on multiple other occasions. And if you have any troubles, but I'm sure you'll do fine. But if you think you should spend some more time thinking about it, then take it. There is no shortitude of mortals in LA, okay?
Problem is not the amount of mortals. Cattle can be replenished. My problem here is the time I have. I can't lose you to this thing. Are you sure
Well,
you can hold yourself together until we find a cure?
I can hold myself, okay? I have already this thing in my nostrils where I can shut them, so to say, cut off my senses, like for smelling. Um, it certainly could get messy if it's in a fight somewhere. I do use swords, I do use rather violent moves, so, it could be an issue there. But that only if we're like in a direct fight. Problem is if somebody finds out about it, but then it's a double problem if you also have it because, two people out of control is bad.
Fine. And he seems to close the wound on his wrist and let the woman's head just fall to the floor. You hear sort of a very dull thud with a slight crack. Almost as if he just pushed the woman to the ground and cracked her skull.
Iris sighs in relief and then just wraps her arms around Cecil's neck, just like burying her nose in his neck and being like, "Thank you. Like, I have been managing for a while now. And certainly, like with Nagaraja, I lost control. Unlucky day, we had a stressful night. The fledgling gangrel, I admit, that was more of an indulgence. But I also actually sort of hoped for animalism. But I mean, I'll have plant talking. That's way cooler than rats. But the other ones, I mean, I knew they were gangrel and I knew they were resilient. I wanted their fortitude because it would help me survive. And, our enemies
Whenever you need a discipline of the sort, tell me. Don't go hunting. Tell me.
Look, but fine. I'll keep it more to something
I need you.
like lowering generation.
I need you to understand that I cannot have you making this type of decision without being monitored. I don't know the extent of the addiction, and I don't know how bad the impulse will be. And I don't know how much of it you'll be justifying in your mind. So I need you to go through me when you want one of these methods to be used.
When I want to reclaim the blood for better use?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, it makes sense. Makes sense from that perspective. Because that'll also give me a peace of mind, like whether, something is really like as I reasoned in my mind.
Good.
I mean, look, is there a way I even have now a sort of panic about like when I find a suitable target of a lower generation, an enemy, right? That that they're not too much further away from me, and B, about knowing that whether I have ways of breaking their will, but like that their will was broken enough. You know. So
If Cecil sort of turns his head, sort of thinking if he should say what he's about to say, and then he seems to come to a decision, and he continues. If you ever need slight indulgence to stave off the impulses, you tell me, and I'll provide you a way to do so without...
no, my point was that I don't want it to be indulgence. I want it to be a planned, you know, reclamation of blood from an unworthy Cainite. I don't want, like, otherwise it can be more, you know, how to say, the indulgent part.
In that case, I'll teach you how to do it. There are methods we can use.
What? Wait, teach me what to do.
Well, I have two significant diableries I had to do. Both times I took all the precautions I needed. I broke the target, and I made sure that once I engaged in the act, I would not lose myself to any of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll teach you how to do it within the limits we've set.
Yeah. Yes.
Good. Cecil sort of looks to the woman's skull, sort of deformed against the ground.
By the way, Serena is still sort of, you know, like sitting very close to Cecil. Her arms probably have moved down from the, you know, like from being wrapped around the neck more to his sides, but she's still just as close.
Yeah,
Because it's
he
calm.
doesn't
Calms
seem
her.
to shy away. And after looking at the woman, he very slowly and half awkwardly places both his arms on your back and says, "Don't do anything that would take you away from the pack. I need you."
Same applies to you.
And as you two share a moment, we will end Serena's side session here. Thank you everyone for watching, but before you go, we also plan to do a side session with Abel and Freya. However, Abel was not, able to attend today's session. So we have pre-recorded one. You will now see this pre-recorded small side session, which takes place right at the end of our previous session, meeting Sasha Vikas. We hope you enjoy, and thank you very much for showing up and listening to our session. We'll see you next episode of Vampire the Masquerade Beyond Armageddon. Have a good night.
Bye, guys.
As you join Cecil in the elevator, the doors close behind you, and you see your packmates staring at the open doors to Vicus's chamber. You go up the elevator, and after you reach your floor, Cecil exits the elevator and guides the two of you towards one of the cars parked there. He speaks to a man standing in front of the car. The man gives him a deep bow and hands him the car keys. And he looks to the two of you and says, "We're taking this one." Do both of you get in, or?
I think Frey has no choice.
All right. And Abel?
Well, I'm with Cecil, so
Okay. So both of you enter the vehicle, and Cecil, getting in the driver's seat, begins to drive off. As he does so, there's sort of an eerie silence, as once in a while, Freya, you catch Cecil's glance on the rearview mirror, sort of looking you up and down, making sure you're not up to anything. And as he drives through the streets of Washington, eventually he reaches what seems to be his destination. A small building, seems to be residential in nature. And after parking the car, Cecil takes the keys out of the ignition, tosses them to Abel, and says, "Stay here. I'll be back in a bit." And he opens the door to leave.
So it looks like we need just to wait.
yeah, his business is usually his business. So I understand you are family, yeah? To Jack, at least.
Freya?
Excuse me, I didn't hear. Some technical problems.
Oh yes, I was just saying that as I understand that you're sort of a family to Jack, at least, yes?
Well, I'm not sure I can say so, but I'm not sure I can deny it. But why are you asking?
Well, we need to wait here, might as well speak about something. Unless you prefer to sit in silence.
No, I prefer to use this time.
So, why are you here?
I'm just interested in a new experience.
And that experience being Los Angeles? Or Washington? Or just the general idea of our sect?
Well, first of all, I'd like to travel a bit. I think
Interesting.
I think you have understood that I'm not the type of person who like to travel a lot, but sometimes it's really good to see something new, or maybe to know something new.
Abel, you, with your background, let's say that, you obviously notice the German accent this lady has. But you also notice that the accent seems. Actually, roll me perception academics, please. All right. So you can definitely tell that hints of the German accent, they seem different from what you'd expect from modern German. A modern German person, at least. They seem to have hints of German people that you've spoken with way, way back.
So you've been traveling for a while now. Centuries?
Well, I think it's never a good idea to ask women about their age.
Oh, I was more interested in what you've seen.
I'm not sure we have enough of time to talk about my experience. Maybe you can tell me something.
Well, South America is quite nice this time of year.
To be honest, I have never been there. I
Oh,
prefer
maybe that's you were saying.
some colder places.
Oh, the southernmost tip of South America is pretty cold. Well, not exactly icy, but
Well, maybe it's a nice idea for future. I can say so. I can say so.
yes. And it's conveniently by the sea as well.
Abel, as you're having this conversation, you feel a buzz in your pocket. Seems that you've received something on your phone.
We'll check the text.
And you may read SD chat.
I look at it for a while and think I would prefer to be back in Los Angeles instead of cold East Coast. Anyone special in your life? Freya, is it?
Well, I have many books and many beds. I think it's more than enough. And what about you?
I may have found a few things on my travels that I finally like to keep around, yes.
I hope the scenes were really nice.
Well, it's not something that I've ever seen before.
Can
What
you
did
tell
you
me?
think of the Priscus?
Well, I'm speechless, but in a good way, in a good meaning.
Oh, really? So you enjoyed the intimidating presence?
Yeah, I think I can say so.
Ah, yes, yes. It's power that your clan is drawn to.
Yeah. Um ehrlich zu sein, oh, sorry. To be honest, it's really good to try something new or to learn something new. So any experience can be good.
Yes, I'm just thinking that anything that a person who's been around that long, any wisdom they might depart has a kind of a sour aftertaste, um, cynical, perhaps.
Yeah, I agree. But actually, there are always some things I can't use too. For example, I have noticed many people are using, and not only people, that strange things. You call them phones. I suppose it's better to use books or libraries and so on. I think it's more useful.
Oh yes, I'm pretty sure that nothing can beat a good book. Well, when it comes to finding knowledge, at least.
Yeah, it's really so. But is it really necessary to use some technologies to find some information? Is it really comfortable?
I I'm not really that well versed in these modern technological devices, but I do see the value in speedy communication.
Is it really so fast?
Oh yes, it is definitely faster than sending a letter. Although, I guess for shorter distances, any bird would do.
Wow. To be honest, I have never left any comment in the internet and so on.
Oh well, no, that's not my thing either. But an electronic letter or a quick call on the telephone is essential when time is of the essence.
Hmm. May I ask you something?
Yes, yes, please.
Um, if you're not against, can I touch your device? But because usually I don't use anything. I would really like to try to, I don't know, maybe watch something on YouTube or maybe leave a comment. As I have told, it's really interesting to get a new experience.
Well, we've only just met, and now you want to touch my device. But fine. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So, Freya touched the device, and she looks a
Ah,
bit
yes, I give her my
embarrassed.
phone.
Mm-hmm. So, can you describe what your phone looks like, Abel? Just for
Oh,
reference.
it's just one of those burner phone type phones, not nothing fancy or anything. Basically just for calling and text messages and the usual graphic texts.
All right. Well, Freya, you grab this burner phone. It seems a bit alien to you.
Yeah, for me it's kind of weird. Interesting but weird. And to be honest, Freya would like to know a bit more information, not only about phone, but maybe some side information.
Okay. I'm assuming you're using a certain power?
Yes.
Okay. You may make the roll. I believe it's... Let me double check. It is perception and empathy.
Okay, one second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Okay. So, as you touch the phone, you get a few impressions. You can see that Abel wasn't lying about his knowledge about the phone. He really only uses this to send messages. You see some faint memories of him typing messages, some faint memories of him checking his phone and seeing that he's received one. And at some point, you spot a very strong memory attached to this phone. And I will PM you what you see. There we go.
okay. So I would also ask how long will it last? I mean, okay, Freya has seen something, but how it looks for Abel?
Well, for Abel, basically... Abel, have you seen anyone use Auspex to read the memories of an object?
I'm not sure. I've seen stuff that Serena does, but if it's any similar, I don't know.
Well, we can say you can roll wits and, let's say, empathy. Let's see what happens there. Okay. So you spot Freya simply handling the phone, examining it for a moment, and she seems to tap the buttons a bit and play around with it. And as she does so, you eventually notice that her eyes don't seem to be focused on the fidgeting that she's doing, on the playing around with the phone. They seem to be sort of looking at a single spot and fixated on it. It's not necessarily indication of foul play, but it's odd to say the least. And if you had to guess, there is something supernatural going on.
Well, I will let her finish.
All right, and
once she does, I'm assuming she is almost done. Or do you still want to go on, Freya?
Okay, so Freya opens a random YouTube video, quickly leaves a comment with the bat emoji, and hands the phone back.
Okay.
All
And
right.
so Abel asks her, did you get the information that you wanted?
Yeah, I can say so.
Okay.
I'm surely know that there is emoji with a bat, but it's not my cup of tea.
Do you mind if I ask a sort of a question back in a similar manner?
Yes, go on.
I will look into her soul.
All right. So you may make the roll. Abel, you begin hearing this presence that you felt before, and it whispers in your ear. One day you'll have to pay for all this help I provide you. And after you feel it focus for a moment, it speaks again. One loss of control. One small mistake. Not only one life was snuffed out, but two. Maybe not family of hers, but definitely kin. Something she prized. Something she missed. In one loss of control, two people died. And the voice begins to fade into the background. Are we good? Can you guys hear me? Kate? Wait. Oh no. Did I lose you? Hold on. God damn it. Okay, yeah. I disconnected. Hooray. Everything has to be fucking great. Okay. Oh, hello? Hello?
Oh,
Hello?
Yeah.
okay.
I
think
lost connection for
I'm
a few
back in.
moments. What was the last thing you guys heard? Apologies.
The last thing you said was what you said, what it said, basically.
Okay, until the end, and then the voice faded?
And then I started speaking, but you no
I
longer
see.
replied.
Yeah, see, the problem is I spoke, I said this, and then I didn't hear anything from your side at all. So, because I'm the one recording, what I said was captured, what you said wasn't. So, continue the scene. Just count in your head to 3 and then proceed. Apologies.
Okay. After hearing this from my helper, I just casually look away and say, I wonder what's keeping Cecil so long.
I'm also very interested in it. Should we go and find him?
Oh, well, he said to wait for. He told us to wait in the car, so let's do that. I'm
Yeah,
sure he's more than capable of taking care of himself.
it's a good idea. To be honest, I don't want to go anywhere.
I just would want to get this work outing over with. Back to LA.
Freya, very quickly roll me perception empathy, please.
Okay. One second.
Mm-hmm. Take your time. There we go. Okay. So when Abel mentions wanting to return to LA, so